Picked the wrong week and quit sniffing glue.
Cry havoc! And let's slip the dogs of war!
Well, hello everybody. It's late on Monday. I'm sorry. I've been running around all day taking care of errands here and there and things that needed to get taken care of. So I didn't get anything done on the Kronos today. Now, over the weekend, I did manage to go in and get rid of the light bleeds that was happening underneath that structure there. I just took some of the two-part steel stick because it makes a nice putty, but you got to use it in small batches because it goes off pretty quickly. So I just rolled up some snakes and put that up underneath the sides and the back where it was where light was leaking out of there, and that's all I got done on it this week or this weekend. I still have some decals to put down, some final decals. I want to glue these guys down. They're not glued in yet. Touch up a little bit of the brass gold. Most importantly, put this guy down. Now I'm thinking that I want to cut the black part off and just use the green strip. Oh, that was another thing I did. I did go in with the tulip, and where I got some light leaking around this brass piece, some light leaking around there, I did take care of that with the tulip. And that was something that was, tedious but needed to be done, because the brass strip does not lay flat against the hull the whole way, because it's got it bows this way as well as going around. So you see a little bit, and I'm just spotting a couple more that I could take care of right now. So let's do that. And even though this has a tiny applicator, it's still a little bit too big. So I'm just gonna, I had sharpened a toothpick that I was using for this purpose. And then I just take a Q-tip and wet it and wipe it down around the top of that, and that takes care of it. And I've got another spot right here. So how was your week, everybody? I'm having one of those days already. Mondays have turned into catch-all days for me, where I am running to the post office, running orders to the mail, and taking care of some special order stuff that I've done over the weekend. Get that mailed out. Went to the chiropractor today. He is keeping me on the straight and narrow, so yay for him. And it's just been that kind of day. So sorry about that. I'm rambling a bit. I need to sit down and relax and do some model building. That's what I want to be doing. Now, how did that crack develop? A crack is developed on top of my nacelle, and I think it happened when I pushed the clear insert in from the front. I think it did that, so I'm going to have to get some CA, or I'm going to have to use CA and just push that back together. Okay, so it's still Monday evening. I'm feeling guilty that I haven't done enough today, so I'm going to go ahead and lay down some decals. Most notably, I'm going to finish the ones around the front, and I think I'm going to do the pylon decals. Let's see. Here's the thing. You see this one here? Well, if I can find it. This one here. This one has to lay. It looks like it has to lay up there, across this piece of metal. And I think I'm gonna be better off if I use the decal there than to use the actual brass piece, because it's gonna fall down underneath all those creases, and it's not gonna give me yet another more awkward things sticking up in the air. So first thing I need to do is put that green stripe on the main thing. I'm going to cut the green stripe out of the middle there and lay it down in the gap and the piece right above there. So let me do that, and then I'll start working in some of the smaller ones while I'm waiting for this area to dry a bit, and then I'll put in the big brass decal. Well, good morning everybody, it's Tuesday. I think we are ready to call the second Kronos one finished. I have let the decals that I put on last night more or less dry in all night. I'm going to put one flat coat, or one coat of flat over everything to seal in the decals, and then I think we'll be done. I am glad that I decided to use the decal up here and not the additional brass piece, because we've already got a brass piece sitting here. We've got that band from the lighting kit, and if we'd tried to add more brass on top of that, I just think the brass on brass would have made it too clunky and too dimensional. I like the way the decal settled in around that, so happy about that. Every place else, hey, go nuts, use the brass. But I'm still a fan of using the brass decals where it has to wrap around a compound curve and you don't feel like trying to bend the brass to make it fit. So I've got the side decals on. Like I said, I want to put a coat of flat over those. But I'm ready to call this done and do the side-by-side comparison. Well, I'm just back from doing a little bit of side-by-side comparison, and I noticed that when I put this Kronos one next to the original Kronos one, that I could see where I had forgotten a couple of pieces of brass. I was looking at the back and forth at them and seeing whether I liked the decal or the actual brass a little better, and then realized there was a spot where I had forgotten to put the brass, and that is right up here on this edge. There's some brass that goes here, so let me go ahead and get those guys glued on, and then we'll be able to do a fair side-by-side comparison. Okay, so I've got both of the Kronos ones side by side here, and this is on a table in the living room because it's about the only spot I've got in the house big enough to do this. I'm gonna slowly walk around now. You know, it's not the best photography, but hey, if somebody wants to buy me and build me a photo setup, I'll be happy to take it. But here we have the two side by side here. I'll turn on the overhead lights. That might help a bit. But like I said, yeah, I don't got a photo booth. This is you take what you get. This is the Tenna Controls lighting with the photo etch additions, with just a little bit of the decal. This is the round 2 lighting kit with the round 2 brass decals. And we'll take a look at this one, and then we'll move over here and take a look at this one. I think you can spot the obvious difference in the intensity of the light. This is the blinking from the round 2 kit. It's a lot faster. This one is more of a breathing, pulsing light than that one. The comb and the second and the shuttlecraft hull there, the bulbs are a lot more obvious. Now they're more obvious on the video or on the camera than they are in real life. I could see them, but you know how cameras make hot spots out of LEDs. But this is much more uniform and not so sourcey. We have the, well, let's see if we can go this way. Go underneath. That's the bulbs, the 4 bulbs from the lighting kit. And that is the LED strip. The LED strip is a little more uniform. It's also a little bit bluer of a green light. I've noticed that the green LEDs themselves are a little bit on the yellow side, so it's probably a truer green. This is a cooler green than that is. But here we have the, this is what the decal looks like, but we still have the same light there. We have the impulse or engines that are constant on. We have the torpedo tube that is constantly on. Whereas in the antenna controls kit, those are both controlled with buttons. Here we have that ramping up, and we have a function and a sound. Whereas with this, it's just on all the time. We have, moving around to the back here, we have on the impulse engines on the antenna controls, they ramp down and then they slowly come up and flicker, and then if you hit the button again, they're on constantly. If you hit the torpedo, you get a ramp up. It fires twice and then ramps back down. Here we have the static lights back here. Second attempt at doing the decals. Now this time I did cut out a lot of that carrier film that was in there, so those decals laid down a lot smoother. And it's easier to tell when you've got them in front of you in person, but this, the second Kronos one is 2 or 3 shades lighter in gray than the first one I did. I was a lot less heavy-handed with the black wash. And there you go, Kronos 1 and Kronos 1A. And there you have it. That is the best that I could do as far as making a head-to-head comparison of the different aspects and different add-ons that you can add to your Kronos 1 kit. So let's weigh the pros and cons. First of all, the kit's a marvel. If you've built a Katinga, you know how good of a kit this is, and the additions of the newly designed nacelles and the decals that come with it. It's a worthy addition to your model shelf, and especially if you've been itching for a good reason to paint one gray. This one is gray. It's not as green as the other ones. So let's just say, so much to weigh. Are you any good at doing lighting? If you're good at doing lighting yourself, do you need to get the round 2 lighting kit? Well, the round 2 lighting kit has one important thing. The round 2 lighting kit has the that strip of brass that goes around the nose that has the windows correctly sized in them. That's a wonderful piece of brass. I would almost wish that was also duplicated in the elaborate brass set. If that was duplicated in the Mac Daddy brass set, I would have no trouble at all recommending the Mac Daddy brass set. So, getting back to lighting. Are you any good at doing lighting? Then you'll probably not want to use the round 2 lighting, because it's kind of like, it has training wheels you can't take off. It is made to work with batteries. It is very good for what it does, But if you are a bulb head, like some people are gear heads, if you're a bulb head, if you like to program lighting, if you like, then it's just going to be frustratingly limiting to you. So if you are a lighting aficionado, don't get this light kit. Do your own lighting. If you know nothing about lighting, this is an excellent kit to start with. That lighting kit will give you 90% of what you want. What it gives you, that what it doesn't give you that you should want, is the ability to trigger the photon effect. That just shouldn't be on all the time. That is the one thing that's really makes the round 2 lighting kit a little more remedial than it should be. And if you just had, you put an on-off switch on that's on the battery pack, but if you had a push button that would trigger a photon light, that would make the lighting kit a no-brainer. So if you are a novice at lighting, this is a great place to start. If you are great at lighting, it will be frustratingly limiting to you. So that's the lighting kit. The brass decals that come with the kit are excellent. They will do 90% of what you want them to do. And the only thing that they don't do, frankly, that I wish they did, is they have no brass decals for the inboard nacelles. If the decals came with the brass inboards for the nacelles, I would say use those, and you'll be wonderfully happy. So should you buy the additional brass? Again, if you are a 1% of one, that's a bad term, sorry. If you are serious about your building of your models and your scratch building, and I think you probably are if you're watching this channel, then you will probably want to get the brass kit. If you are brass curious, if you have very limited amount of exposure to using brass, stick with what comes in the kit. Use the decals, use the brass that comes with the kit to get your feet wet. You might find that that was great, and you might want to go to the next Kronos one that you build and get the elaborate brass. I think the decals will satisfy most people as far as giving the effect of the brass photo etch without actually having to put the photo etch down. Having said that, even if people use the elaborate brass set, which I would recommend, if you have any experience putting down brass, I would go ahead and get the elaborate brass set, because it does look that much better. But what it doesn't have is it also doesn't have that wraparound piece for the front nose, but it has the inboard grills. I think the inboard grills are so beautiful that they're almost worth the price of the brass set by itself, just to get those two pieces. I still use the decals for the spots where the brass has to wrap around something, whether it's inward or outward. I'm a coward. People that know how to bend brass and know how to anneal it and get a nice smooth curve on it, they will have no problem with this brass. The parts that I used that had to bend, if they had to bend straight, I mean, if it was a flat piece and it had to just like bend in the middle and not go around a curve or anything, I still used the brass because I like the authenticity of it. But there were 6 or 7 decals that I used that I didn't use the brass for. So measure all of that. The kit. Of course, I'm going to recommend the paint masks because of all of that stuff that you have to paint. But then you put the gray wash over it, and it kind of tones everything back. Now then it's up to you. Do you want to use the photo etch? Do you want to use the decals? The photo etch is mighty expensive, but it has those import grills. So if you're only going to build one of these kits, I say Tenant Controls lighting, round tooth photo etch, my masks, and a kit, and do the whole bells and whistles. If you're on a budget, use the kit. Use the kit decals. You will get. It's a toss up. I still think if you're any good at lighting, you should get the Tenant Controls lighting kit, because you will hit a wall on the round 2. You will hit a wall that you can't jump over as far as what you want to be able to make that kit do. So that's my recommendation would be, if you're no good at lighting, get the lighting kit. It'll walk you through it. You'll be happy. If you're moderately good or really good at lighting, get the Tenant Controls kit. You will appreciate the added benefits it gives you, and it won't be as frustrating as using the other kit. If you're good at putting brass down, get the elaborate brass set. If you just want to get the model done, put it on a shelf, give the effect of the brass, the kit decals will do you fine. You'll still end up learning a little bit about brass because you still have to do that bit around the tower. That's my recommendation. Take it for what it's worth. I hope you've enjoyed this series. The next build, I guarantee you, will have no lights or decals. So, until then, y'all be good, be safe, be smart, cry havoc, and let's slip the dogs of war.
I'd give real money if you'd shut up.